NAR membership continues to slide. That is happening month over month over month. This is actually the third month that it has slid once again. So the numbers are out for January in 2024. As you can imagine, if you've been in real estate for longer than a day, there's a lot of headwinds that not only the industry faces, but also NAR, of course, with a lot of things going on that are causing some memberships to not get renewed now. So we're going to check out this article, and towards the end, I'm going to share a bit more of my personal opinion on what's actually the biggest driver. But I think it might be surprising to some, it might not be. But we're going to look at all the reasons why the NAR, so the National Association of Realtor memberships, continue to plummet. So check this out. Maybe if I share the correct one. Here we go. This is where we need to be. All right, NAR membership continues to slide in 2024. This is courtesy of Yahoo Finance. All right. Move this over here. After closing out 2023 with its first annual membership decline since 2012, over 10 years of rise, the National Association of Realtors is still struggling with its membership count. So right off the gate, we see that we're starting to see some patterns, right? So we're looking at, as the recovery has happened, and as the real estate industry started to, rebound in 2012. Well, it rebounded before then, or started to at least. It's no surprise that more and more real estate agents were getting licensed, and also since many brokerages actually require to be part of NAR, it's no surprise that a lot of them were joining NAR because there was just more agents in the game. No surprise there. In January, NAR membership dropped 2.5% from the month prior. So that's a big jump. If you multiply that to how many members that actually means, that's quite a bit of people, right? So it had 1.5 million members, according to the trade group's monthly report released on Monday. This is down 2.1% compared to the year prior. So year over year, as we're looking at that, you're looking at 98% of the people, but essentially 98% of where it was. So a 2.1% drop year over year. January marked the third consecutive month of membership declines for NAR, and the month's realtor count marks the lowest since 2021. So I suspect next month, and quite reasonably, I expect next month for this to be changed to the lowest level since 2020, since 2019. So it's gonna be a pyramid, right? So it starts going up, then starts going down. That's what's going to end up happening here, because the numbers are going to continue to go down. There's several reasons for that, which they do speak about a bit here. So we're going to touch on it, and then we're going to get into really more of put this into context. Since hitting a peak of 1.6 million members, that's a lot of agents, in October 2022, NAR membership has declined 5.3%. Yikes. However, the 85,000 agents lost between October and, so essentially you're looking at a little bit over a year and 3 months, is still well below the 400,000 agent drop recorded when? During the not the Great Recession, the Great Real Estate Bust in 2008, 2009. So it's not as severe for sure, but will we ultimately see 400,000 agents? I think we're going to see a number way larger than that within a span of 4 years. I don't want to be so bleak, but I do think that that's going to happen. I do think that with a 4-year gap, you are going to have a lot of agents getting out of the industry. Will it be over 400,000? I think it will. I think it actually will. Although this is positive news, not positive news. It's, when you're comparing losing to the worst thing that's happened in most recent history, when you compare your numbers to something that was affected worldwide, I'm not sure you can call that's positive news. You're playing the whataboutism game. Like, well, what about him? What about her? What about whatever? But when you're playing that comparison with the worst drop ever, I'm not sure you can necessarily call that a good news all that much. All right, so let's see here. The membership figures are holding better than the market dynamics suggest. Existing home sales fell. That is true. And then, all right. So the rest are things that are not as interesting. So let's talk about why this is happening. Some of those you probably already know. Some of the reasons you probably already know. Real estate became significantly harder in 2022. Why? Well, that's when interest rates started to rise, right? So when interest rates started to rise, not as many people are doing transactions. So and this is something that the economist mentions, for the economist for NAR mentioned that home sales were down. So yes, of course, that happened in 2022, and it did happen in 2023 as well. So with higher interest rates, you are looking at less transactions, especially from the buyer side. Now, I say that from the buyer side, knowing that there's both transactions, there's a sale and a buy, so I understand that. But I'm saying with higher interest rates, typically newer agents, you're depending on to be working with buyers. You're depending on those buyers, whether it's first-time buyers, second-time buyers, whatever, to help you break into the industry, because typically you'll get into the industry and you start working with buyers right out of the gate, and then hopefully your career takes off and you start getting some listings as either the buyers that you helped get into the home start listing, or your skill set continues to improve to where you are able to speak to homeowners, you are able to handle their objections, you are able to present your value proposition, and you start getting these listings, right? So there's a reason the adage here is list to last. So a lot of agents right now, it doesn't, as you're getting it started, it doesn't matter who you work with, you just need work, right? So you have a lot of agents that are leaving the industry because of that higher interest rate that started in 2022, 2023. And not a fun fact, but an actual fact, that in 2023, half of the agents out there sold less than one or less homes, right? So half of the there's way more realtors. There's over 2 million realtors when you factor everybody in. But if you're looking at the NAR side of things, you saw that it has 1.5 million agents that are registered, 1.5 million members right now. So take about half of them, and they've done one or no transactions this past year. You can't survive. That's not a winning strategy. They're out of business, right? So you have higher interest rates. NAR scandals. That's another big reason that either major brokers or mid-average, so average size brokers, don't make it a requirement now. You don't have to become a member of NAR to join our brokerage, because with all this bad press going on around NAR, with the sex scandals, with the coercion, all this other stuff, it just a lot of brokerages were already on the fence and didn't really see a big value to being a member of NAR. Well, when you have that much amount of bad press and you're associated to that organization, it becomes a tough pill to swallow. So you saw Redfin was the first major brokerage to go out on record and say, "Hey, enough is enough. We hear you from the news every single week. It seems like something is happening with the leadership, and we're not going to make it a requirement for our agents to become a members of NAR at that point." So Redfin has thousands and thousands of agents, one of the largest brokerages in the country. So whenever they go out on record, and because of those, there's other reasons, but because of the scandals, that's what they pointed to, that's a big, big drop. And you have a lot of brokerages that followed suit. Now, the third reason that the membership continues to dwindle and dry up is, well, the commission suit. The commission lawsuit that happened this past year, or the commission suit that was actually adjudicated, went to trial this past year. The industry looks bleak, at least from a monetary perspective, or at least that's how a lot of agents saw it, that maybe weren't doing as great. Maybe we're doing less than 3 transactions a year. We're doing less than 5 transactions a year. Well, they recognize and they see the writing on the wall. It's not going to get easier, especially if this gets enforced. This being this lawsuit that has happened, and that NAR and Home Services of America, so Berkshire Hathaway Home Services of America, are the only two remaining individuals in this lawsuit, or entities in this lawsuit, where they have appealed the suit, where NAR, well, at the time there was five brokerages, or four brokerages in NAR that were implicated in the Morel-Sitzer suit in Missouri, which ended up getting lost, or they ended up losing. So there's the appeal. Hopefully it does end up working. I don't necessarily think it will, but again, a lot of uncertainty about the compensation for agents. There's a lot of uncertainty right now. So a lot of agents that were coming up on the new year were debating, and many of them decided to not renew their memberships because of that uncertainty. They weren't doing great to begin with, and even agents that were doing great, there's some serious considerations. How much longer could this last, right? So might as well leave while I can still make a living, so I can transition into something else. That's what I'm not gonna say a lot, but a considerable amount of agents are looking, again, at the writing on the wall. Maybe that's an option, right? Now, something that I don't think is affected right now for this particular the drop, but the competition that's coming. The American Real Estate Association is coming. It's I forget the gentleman's name. So it's two popular agents that released the news, or shared the news at Inman about 3 weeks ago, that they were starting this association to rival, to compete with NAR. Because right now we know that NAR is really the only trade group, the only association that we as agents have an option to join, right? For our needs, our MLS needs, and all that fun stuff. So this competition, again, I don't believe, because it hasn't even been launched yet, I don't believe the competition has anything to do with this drop in numbers right now. But give it a few months, once the AREA, so again, the American Real Estate Association that is being created, if that gets off the ground, give it a couple of months, then you are going to see a huge drop in NAR's numbers, given that right now NAR's the only kid on the block at the moment. But when you have somebody, an additional competition, then the numbers are going to continue to dwindle. So we're going to see where we end up. I would guess that by the end of this year, this is going to be a radical guess. So if we have 1.5, what was it? 1.535. Yeah, I think it was 1.535. I am going to make a prediction. No, so to 1.515 million members. I wouldn't be surprised if this gets down to 1.25. That's a significant drop. You're talking about 250 agents. I wouldn't be surprised, but yeah, I do think that there's going to be a huge drop by the end of this year. Of course, I think that the NAR memberships are going to be way different by the end of this year. So I would predict 1.25. It's a bit aggressive, but I said it, so we're going to go ahead and stick to that. But let me know what you think. What are some things that are going to continue to plague NAR, or if you think it's going to rebound? I don't necessarily think that it will, but everybody has opinions. So I'm curious to see what you think. Let me know in the comment section, and I'll see you tomorrow.